Is this a new low for Elon Musk? And I don't even know what to say anymore. It's the pedo comment that he made a couple of months ago. Obviously, was one of the lowest points, I think, and he's now doubling down on that. And I don't even know what to say. It's so hard for me to sit here and talk about it, and at the same time tell you guys that like this is the person I admire. This is my idol. This is somebody I think is one of the most important people in the world, and yet have to tell you guys about what he just said yesterday on Twitter. I was kind of hoping that the worst was over after the funding secured stuff and all of that, and unfortunately, I was wrong. And the worst of all, there are some exciting electric car news that I'm going to talk about. But every time a headline like this comes out, and we talk about it for days and for weeks sometimes, because it is important. He is the leader of our movement, of the electric car movement and green energy. And when he says stuff like that, it's just always I don't even know, guys. I'm just kind of speechless. So I'll tell you about it, and I'll tell you about some other electric car news, and we'll just have to kind of digest it all coming up next. Taking over the world, electrifying the world, all right, thank you so much for watching me on Patreon Live. If you're a Patreon, thank you for supporting the show. And if this is your first time here and you're watching me on YouTube, welcome. If you are interested in staying up to date with everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, good or bad, you came to the right place. Go ahead and click on the subscribe button so you don't miss anything moving forward. All right, let's talk about what Elon Musk tweeted yesterday. There were quite a few of those. And the first one, it was this one. And essentially, he said, and I don't even know, I mean, this was in a reply on someone else who mentioned the whole pedo comment. And let me remind you what the pedo comment was originally. Elon sent a team of his experts to build a little submarine to help rescue a soccer team in Thailand that was just a bunch of little boys and their coach that was trapped in a cave for a while. And once it was over, they ended up not using Elon's little submarine, and one of the rescuers, who was hailed as a hero, basically made some unpleasant comments towards Elon and his invention, and basically saying how it wasn't going to work. And Elon's reply was basically, oh yeah, so that's not the one, right? Sorry, I should have probably prepared for the show. Okay, yeah, so his comment was basically calling the guy a pedophile, essentially. Pedo is the word that he used. Later on, he deleted the tweet, which is very rare, and apologized for it in this tweet, which is also very rare. And that issue kind of died, and I gotta tell you, even people who were like humongous Elon fans, Tesla fanboys, whatever you want to call it, I mean, they would defend him for anything. Like, he can literally, drown a cradle of kittens, and they will still defend them. And even at that time, they basically all thought that was way out of line, and that's why I believe that was like the lowest point. But yesterday, in reply to something else, really somebody was kind of calling him out about truth talking and stuff like that. He essentially suggested that he was right originally to call that guy pedophile, and the reason he believes he might be is because he never sued Elon for saying that, even though he was offered free legal advice. And that, what a horrible, first of all, what a horrible thing to say once again towards the guy. Secondly, what a horrible way to essentially tell us what the truth is. So basically, if you accuse somebody of something, it's up to them to sue you back in order for them to be innocent. I mean, this is so beyond decent, really. And I just don't understand where it's coming from. I mean, I know he's underslept, stressed out, on Ambien, maybe some drugs. I know all that, but how is it coming out of his heart? How is such a brilliant man with such ambitions and such accomplishments can just say that? And suggest this, that somehow you have to be proven innocent, or the original crazy statement about you might be true or is true. He was going after this particular guy. His name, I guess, is, his Twitter name is Yoda. The guy pointed out that his name is Drew, which is true, as you can see here. It says Drew Olanov. He kept calling him Yoda, and then he basically said that I'm not going to call you Drew. Your name is Yoda. Just kind of a childish, petty stuff. And he essentially also said that it was kind of Drew's job to investigate Elon's claim, or any media's job to investigate Elon's claim, in order to clear that guy from accusation of being a pedophile. Now, again, let me remind you that this tweet, where he apologized a while back and deleted his original tweet, he had some moment of decency, and yet I mean, feel free to offer me an explanation. And by the way, all of this has actually started with another thing where, New York Times reported that he was, had shed some tears during his New York Times interview. And I think a lot of people, felt that it was a very human moment, and really felt like a lot of them offered, advice, and just everybody felt bad, and kind of stepped back and looked at him as more of a human being rather than the corporate CEO, Elon Musk, right? And then there was this, I forget her name, but there was a CEO of another company who was a female, and she said, listen, if I or other female executives would cry during an interview, we would be looked at very different. And that's a good point. I mean, yes, we still have a double standard on a male, female corporate executive CEO. And that was a good point, but his reply, once again, he just picks the worst fights. So his reply to her was, for the record, my voice cracked only once during the New York Times article that said there were no tears. And it's like, Elon, take the win. That was a good interview in terms of everybody felt, everybody was able to relate to you at some point, and maybe even forgive some of the things that you've been saying or doing and so forth. Why roll that back? And why reply to somebody who's simply saying, listen, it's a bit tougher for a woman to be CEO in our day and age, and we can't get as emotional as maybe men can. And then she has a point. She has a good point, right? Why reply to her that way? And by the way, so Jalopnik, who covered the story, they reached out to their contact in New York Times, and look, this is what the New York Times basically said. For the record, and I'm sorry, this is the Jalopnik's reporter, Michael Balaban, and he says, for the record, we reached out to Jordan Cohen, a spokesman for the New York Times, who said in an email that we stand by our description. Mr. Musk's emotion was audible. It is not true that his voice only cracked once. So it seems like may not even be true, and he's fighting it, and for what reasons? Just, oh man, it's just such a mess, and I just don't get it. I just don't get it. If somebody can offer me an explanation, a reasonable explanation, I would love to take it. So in your comments, in my comment section, please offer me something that can really settle it down. I once again thinking like, is this what is going to happen with all of this? What is going to happen? Is this going to get worse? Is this ever going to get better? How is this going to affect? Bottom line is, I'm okay with maybe turning around on Elon and just saying, no, maybe I rushed to judgment about who he was. But my bigger, vision is for the electric car movement to move forward. And this is such a distraction, right? This is just negative publicity, not just for Tesla, but for the entire electric car and the green energy movement. And boy, I hope it stops. And I had Roger Atkins on my show the other day, and I asked him, well, what needs to happen for him to stop this? And his explanation, or that he offered, was actually not bad. He said, listen, it may just need to be his mom, who he's close with, to kind of sit him down and say, hey, listen, son, you really should slow down. Maybe his brother. So I don't know. It's just tough for me to talk about it. And I know some of you will say I'm a Tesla hater or Elon hater and everything. And if I was, that would have been much easier for me to do this. And I'm literally heartbroken, to be honest with you, with such a disgraceful comment coming from from a man who I admire so much. It just tears my heart. All right, you know what? Why don't we move on to some actual electric car stories? I'm sure we'll come back to this one at some point. But before that, let me remind you guys that this show and this channel is sponsored by Abanex, the aftermarket accessories to Tesla, which is still one of the, if not the best car out there. There's a discount code in the description of this video. Go ahead and grab it and save yourselves a few bucks. All right, let's move on to another story. There are going to be quite a few launches in the next couple of months. I'll be attending the Audi e-tron launch here in San Francisco. And one of the other launches is going to happen in Europe, and this is for the Mercedes-Benz EQC, which is all-electric SUV. Pretty cool looking as far as we can tell. They've been in final stages of sort of testing. I believe it's going to be in Stockholm on the 4th. They'll be unveiling the car, 250-mile range, which is pretty decent, especially for a relatively large SUV. And now they've released a few kind of a teaser images. And so let me just share it with you. So this one is from the back. And this one is from the kind of front, I guess, partial. Well, here's the one from the front. So far looks pretty cool. I mean, I really like it. And this one's from the inside. And I really like the inside one. I mean, overall, I actually thought that this is a good looking car to start with when I saw some of the prototype images and all of that stuff. But definitely I like the continuous screen sort of I don't know if it's going to be touch. I really do hope it's touch, not with a joystick. I hate that. It is, if it's touch, it might be just a little too far from the driver to reach. It's kind of hard to understand what the distances here is. I wish it would have wrapped around a little bit more as well. But nevertheless, I like it. I like it a little bit. I like it. Let me just put it that way. I need to see other pictures to maybe render or maybe even in person to render my final verdict on this one. But yeah, let me know what you guys think. But let me move on to another interesting thing. So NIO is the company, and this is their very first all-electric car that they are selling in China now. And the most exciting technology that I think about this car and about this brand is that they actually believe in battery swapping, and and they're going to be building out battery swapping stations in China, and then hopefully they will cross over to the United States, which I think is the fastest way and the best way to charge the car. Just swap the battery really quick, and I'm glad they're running with that technology. So they've officially filed for the IPO here in the United States, and it looks like in a couple of weeks they will be going public. They're looking to raise $1.3 billion, which will make them, if not the richest, but one of the richest electric car startups out there. And they do make other cars, gas and plug-in hybrid cars as well. But this is their baby as far as now I'm thinking, like, do they have gas cars? They might not. You know what? I'm gonna let's just, I somehow might be confusing it, but let's just concentrate on this one, the ES8, and it will be a while until it comes to America, but they're obviously preparing it. And they have one of the biggest chances, along with Byton, to be able to be one of the first electric car companies in China that actually cross the ocean and start doing business in America successfully, because I really do think that this can work. Let's see how the IPO goes in a couple of weeks. Definitely exciting times. Speaking of crossovers from China, here's another company called Candy. And you know what? It's every time when I Google this company, I basically got a bunch of pictures of strippers, essentially, named Candy with a K and an I. So I don't know if it's the best name for the car, just because of the Google results being a little confusing. But they're closely associated with Geely, the Chinese company, the automaker, and they just made a deal with the Texas company, ATV Texas company, to kind of be their representative dealers, whatever you want to call it, here in the United States. And this week they've launched, sort of unveiled two of their cars that already existed, but they kind of unveiled it for the American market. They're a little bit modified. One of them is this crossover SUV, little compact SUV. Another one is I just didn't have a picture in time for you guys, sorry, but it basically looks like the Mercedes-Benz is the Smart EV42. The interesting thing that right now they're selling, oh, by the way, 125 mile range, so not too bad, but especially for the price. The price is that they're selling it for about $20,000 dollars after incentives in China, and I think after incentives here, you might be able to pick it up at like $13,000 or $14,000, which is insane. So looking forward to that. They haven't announced too many specs or pricing or timelines and stuff like that, so that's coming up. But it is definitely interesting. Another player in the US, and it does look like the Chinese manufacturers are kind of creeping up to the North American market. I mean it in a good way. Of course, we don't know what's going to happen with the tariff wars and all of that stuff, but I'm definitely looking forward to it. You know, the brand that I'm looking forward to is Byton. I've been kind of really rooting for them, but Neo is also something that I really like. But hey, listen, if these guys can come in and start selling really affordable all-electric cars, the more the merrier. Now let's get back for Tesla for just a second. Let's get back to their wireless charging, which is kind of, I wasn't even going to cover when they came out with this wireless charger for your phone. Calm down, not for your car, for your phone. It was like $65 and you could buy pretty much better chargers than that for like half the price of Amazon, which kind of sucks. I really would prefer if Tesla's going to sell stuff for premium for a lot of money. It wouldn't be because they're selling their logo on a crappy product. It would be because they would be selling their logo on an amazing product, which was not this case really. So the weird part of this story is that all of a sudden on the page in their shop on their website had disappeared for this, and some people are saying they're sold out. But usually when a product is sold out, the page is still there. It says sold out. We'll let you know when we'll have more. You can put a deposit down, whatever, right? And there's always going to be more, and the company always wants to make sure to keep the customers. They don't take the page down. So I thought that was a little weird. I don't know if there will be something else coming out about this. I don't know if it's a recall or very weird is all I'm saying. They have no problems keeping the reservation holders for like 500,000 reservations for 500,000 people, right, for the Model 3, but they don't seem to want to have a reservation line for a mobile charger. A little odd. We'll see what happens with that. I'm just saying. All right, let me just thank one of my new Patreons, Oscar Tehran. Thank you so much, Oscar, for joining me. You can now, depending on the level, but you can definitely check out some of my exclusive content here on Patreon. And thank you to all of my Patreons watching me live right now and supporting my channel. It's very, very important for me. And let's move on to the comment of the day. I think I have a couple. Let's see how much time we have. Let's see. Oh yeah, so this one comes from Alan Brown. He says, the alternate camera view is not your best angle, and it makes it clear you're doing everything. Thanks. Alan, I don't know if you're actually, you know what? I'm gonna feel more comfortable talking to you this way. Alan, listen, if you're watching this show, buddy, for the visual pleasure of this, you are definitely in the wrong channel. If anything, the visual pleasure should come from the cars that I'm featuring, and I hope that's very clear. I'm just a talking head here. I'm just a guy. I'm a mailman with some opinions. Yeah, how about this? Look at me. Think of me as a mailman with some opinions. But secondly, I'm very proud that I'm doing this all by myself. This is why actually I designed this view and the camera view, is because I like the fact that I am creating the graphics, going through the news stories, switching back and forth between cameras, including between cameras, and reading the chat, reading comments, doing it. I feel like I am in kind of a full control of the show, and I love doing. I don't have a huge crew here. Just an army of one, if you will. I don't have expensive equipment or, none of that. And I think this is what makes this show actually more genuine, because it's just me sitting in my studio here at home. Anyway, but thank you for the comment, and I hope you enjoyed this angle, which I am by myself now going to switch back, if you don't mind. Okay, here you go. All right. Well, so thanks, Alan. I mean, it's. I hope that answers your concern here. But let me pick on another comment, which a little bit more on a serious side, I guess. This is about the Audi PB18 concept, e-tron concept that I covered yesterday in a separate video. And D Wolf said, really, Alex? It's time we began to question any of these battery electric vehicles. Unveil unveils until they prove they're taking sales seriously by producing 1,000 a week. Stop asking when it will be available. Start asking them how many they will produce and by when, and so forth and so forth. And fair point. Fair point. And as you know, there was an also infinity concept there, which I did not cover. I actually am not going to produce a video, and I'll tell you why I thought this was worth covering. First of all, Audi, unlike Infiniti, is a brand that's actually moving forward into an electrification of their fleet, and there will be we're only 3 weeks away from them unveiling a very decent electric SUV. Pretty impressive, actually. So when they come out with a concept car like this, we already know they're invested in the electric car movement, and so this is okay with me. And by the way, the concept cars, they can do and say whatever they want with it, right? They could have said this had a internal combustion engine and it would be just as good, right? But they said no, this is an electric car, and kudos to them for that. They made it a part of the e-tron family. I know this is, even if it wasn't production, it would be a ridiculously expensive car, but I think as a publicity stunt, and I gotta tell you, electric car movement is right now all about publicity stunts, because we have to convince 99% of the population of the earth that they should start buying them, and this is one of the cool ways to do it. And also, don't forget, what I really like about this car is the way the seat moves back and forth between the middle position and the left position, and I think that's innovation. This is something new. I haven't seen this before. We've seen that in a semi-truck by Tesla where the seat is in the middle, but I thought it was an interesting concept for those who use these cars to maybe drive to the track themselves, not having that car in a trailer, and then actually racing the car on the track. And I thought it was innovative. So quite a few things that I liked about this car, even though it was a concept, and that's why I covered it. Also, from the interview with the designer, I think you guys also heard about a little bit more about Audi's vision about electric cars, and I thought that was pretty valuable as well. And that's why I featured that, but I did not feature the Infiniti's car because they got nothing going on right now, even though they're part of Nissan's brand, and they got nothing going on. There was just a toy car, and I showed you what it looked like, and yeah, I know I call it a glorified bathtub, but that's what really essentially it is to me, and that's why there will be no coverage of that until they get their stuff together and actually be serious, and I would agree with you on that front. All right, next up is the extra mile for those of you who are watching me live on Patreon, and I see so many comments already. You guys got a conversation going over there, so I will catch up with you guys there in a second. For those of you who are watching me on YouTube, I will see you tomorrow, same time pretty much, and there will be more exciting news, I'm pretty sure. Until then, I will see you, and remember to stay charged.